Every shot you're watching right now was created from a simple prompt using AI. Doesn't seem like it, right? Because a cinematic video is defined not only by its visuals, but also how the camera moves. Thousands of creators spend hours trying to generate perfect images, but they ignore one single skill that actually makes a scene feel like a movie. The way a camera moves tells the audience where to look, what to feel, and when the tension should rise. And once you understand this, you can turn any AI image into cinematic scenes. Today, I'm going to show you 8 powerful camera movements used in filmmaking, how famous directors use them in movies, and the exact prompts you can use to recreate them with AI. We're using Magic Hour for this because it keeps the process simple. You can generate your images, videos, all in one place without jumping between different tools. And the best part is, all of the models we'll be using are already built into Magic Hour. So, grab your coffee, let's dive right in. We are starting with static shots because it is the simplest yet most underrated shot of filmmaking. Static shots are commonly captured by locking the camera in a fixed position. The result is a shot with zero camera movement. Most of the time, this shot is used to capture a dialogue or performance that is really phenomenal.
Out of order! Who the hell do you think you're talking to? I've been around, you know. There was a time I could see, and I have seen, boys like these, younger than these, their arms torn out, their legs ripped off.
Apart from the dialogues, there are some genius examples where filmmakers have static shots as a tool to trap a character in the state of helplessness. Like this movement from Dunkirk. Generally, from a bombing scene, people expect a lot of cuts and camera movements to show the chaos, but Nolan uses a static shot to convey the helplessness of the protagonist. He is trapped in this scene and the explosion is coming closer and closer, making it more dangerous. By using static shots, we can add certain gravity in our scene. For example, if I want to animate this explosion scene and don't specify any camera movement, the result defaults to a pan, which ends up breaking the seriousness of the movement. So, we will change the prompt a bit by adding static shot, no camera movement. And as you can clearly see the difference, the scene instantly feels more cinematic and impactful. Now let's move on to our next camera movement, which is pan. It simply means moving the camera horizontally, left or right, while remaining on a fixed axis. The pan can be considered as one of the most common human activities. For example, when you're looking for new information, you move your head left or right. Similarly, in filmmaking, pan shots are used to reveal new information. Wes Anderson has used this shot as his signature shot in many of his movies. Another example is a scene from The Revenant, where a slow pan is used to build a sense of anticipation. Unlike a slow pan, a whip pan is simply a faster pan and is used to keep up with the character's movement. In La La Land, that beautifully captures the rising synergy between Sebastian and Mia. For example, in this gun scene, if we use cuts to show different POVs, then it would be an amateur way of doing things. But if we use whip pan, then the same scene suddenly feels more dynamic and engaging. That's the power of camera movements. One small change can really make it better. As I mentioned earlier, panning is used for horizontal movement. Now, let's look at the vertical axis, which is a tilt. The tilt moves the camera up or down, revealing the vertical dimensions of a film's world. Apparently, there can be 2 versions of tilt up and tilt down. Filmmakers use tilt up for 2 main reasons. First, capture the setting of the scale of the scene. Like in Inception, Nolan uses tilt up to show the scale of the dream world. Secondly, tilt up is also used to reveal something powerful or assert dominance in a character. Honestly, you don't even need an example. Just watch any Superman movie and you'll understand what I mean. But let's understand it from a practical example. I am creating a scene where I have to introduce a superhero. So obviously I am looking for something which can assert dominance. I will use tilt up to reveal him and see how impactful it becomes. The opposite of a tilt up is a tilt down, where the camera moves from top to bottom. A tilt down is often used to reveal information. For example, in The Sacrifice, Andrei Tarkovsky uses a tilt down to showcase the details of destruction without a dialogue. The second use of a tilt down is to highlight a character's vulnerability. By moving the camera from top to bottom, filmmakers can visually diminish a character, making them feel smaller, exposed, or emotionally fragile. For example, in Fight Club, when Bob hugs Edward Norton in the cancer support group, David Fincher uses a subtle tilt down to emphasize his emotional breakdown.
Yes, we're men. Men is what we are.
To make it clear, I'm going to use a practical example where a father and his daughter are grieving a tragedy. I'm going to use a tilt down to gradually reveal the grief. In the first shot, the daughter is not fully visible, and the moment her face is revealed, it enhances the emotional impact. Now that we're done with the vertical and horizontal axis, our next camera movement takes us inward. I'm talking about the push in and pull out shots. The push-in shot moves the camera physically closer to a subject. Filmmakers majorly use push-in to tell the audience that this is something important. For example, in The Godfather, when Michael Corleone is about to kill the man who tried to murder his father, a decision that will change his life forever. A point of no return into the underworld. And as the camera slowly pushes in, the tension builds. We watch him struggle internally until he finally finds the courage to pull the trigger. Push-in can also be used to highlight a moment, a detail, or a text. Like in this image of a man who's writing equations on the glass. What would I do? I'm going to use the push-in to highlight his genius. And see how effectively it takes you into the scene? The opposite of a push-in is called pull-out. Where a push-in draws us closer, a pull-out creates distance. Filmmakers use it to create a sense of detachment from a scene. Like in the final shot of Catch Me If You Can, where the camera pulls away, leaving us with a quiet sense of distance and reflection. The same movement can also emphasize negative emotions like isolation and abandonment. For example, in Breaking Bad, a pull-out shot is used in Walter White's final moments, highlighting the helplessness and sense of abandonment.
Did you really think I'd do you wrong?
I was going to include zoom in and zoom out as well, but my video editor threatened me with suicide, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Instead, I have a special effect from you from the zoom family, something known as the crash zoom. A crash zoom is a very fast zoom toward the subject. Filmmakers use it to showcase sudden shock or horror, but it's also used to give it a comic effect in the film. Quentin Tarantino has used this in many of his films, but the best example that I can recall is from Django Unchained.
Whoa, whoa.
Similarly, in our example, if we simply mentioned the zoom on the sniper, then it would give you a boring translation. But as you can see, once we add a crash zoom, the scene becomes much more interesting. Now what if we merge inner camera movement of zoom with physical camera movement? This effect is none other than the dolly zoom. Hitchcock used dolly zoom for the first time in his movie Vertigo. And that's why dolly zoom is also called vertigo effect. Dolly zoom is commonly used to show something unsettling, strange, or which can be the ultimate plot twist. For example, in Guardians of the Galaxy, when Star-Lord realized that his father has killed his mother, they showed this revelation with the dolly zoom.
It broke my heart to put that tumor in her head. What?
Dolly zoom is also effective in showing a sense of hallucination or something that bends the physics of your reality. Like in this image, my character is completely still. I'm going to use the dolly zoom prompt to literally bend her reality. And without any dialogue, I can metaphorically convey a hallucinatory experience. Our next camera movement is the camera roll. A roll turns the camera on its axis while maintaining the direction of the lens. A camera roll is disorienting, which aims to unsettle your eyes. Rolls can be used to match character movement in movements of panic or conflict, or loss of control. Like in this movement from Requiem of a Dream, Darren Aronofsky uses a camera roll to show the psychology of addiction, where both characters are trapped in a dizzy loop. Apart from that, camera rolls can also be used to create a perfect match cut transition. For example, if I wanted to transition from a washing machine to the next scene where my protagonist is driving a car to reach somewhere, instead of using a direct cut, I can use a camera rotation prompt to achieve seamless cinematic transition. The next shot is the over-the-shoulder shot. It's a classic storytelling shot used commonly in dialogue scenes, where the camera sits behind one character's shoulder while facing another. In this scene from Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese had used multiple over-the-shoulder shots to build up chemistry between Jordan and Naomi.
Very British, you know. Just a classy lady.
That explains it then.
Explains what?
Explains you. I mean, you're a duchess, right? You're the Duchess of Bay Ridge.
It is also used in a POV scene where you want to see something from your character's point of view. If you use too many cuts, the result can feel awkward, so over-the-shoulder shots can be considered an effective tool to maintain the flow of the scene. Like in this swing scene, if we use over-the-shoulder angle, it tells the viewer that we are observing the kid from this man's perspective. Once you understand these camera movements, you stop generating random AI videos, and you start directing scenes. Because the difference between a creator and a director is knowing how the camera tells a story. So next time you generate an AI scene, don't just prompt the subject, prompt the camera, because the moment you master camera movement, your AI videos stop looking like AI and start looking like cinema. I've shared all the prompts and the shot list in this description so you can follow along exactly. And if you're doing this yourself, use Magic Hour. It's the best tool because it gives you access to all the major models in one place. Use code MAGICHOUR10 to get 10% off any plan. Also, join our Discord where you can get help from the founders whenever you're stuck. Subscribe to our channel and watch our next video to learn how to create better cinematic videos.